Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Orr. Tom, hey, man, how's it going?
The wild, dramatic Big Ten mood swings are just getting closer and closer and closer together at this point. So at some point, I'm going to be simultaneously ecstatic and despondent, but we're not quite there yet. It's been like about 10 minutes apart right now. It's like when your wife is having a kid and the contractions keep getting closer and closer together. It means something's about to happen. Well, the mood swings are getting closer and closer together. So something's about to happen one way or the other. Can't wait.
Yeah, and I'm sure this doesn't cause any damage internally when things are going, one way than the other. And even as we announced, we're doing a live show, which is definitely live. We've got a bunch of Zoom people in here watching as well. Just the announcing of it causes the news to change with the Big Ten, as um, there was a hot microphone that caught Nebraska President Ted Carter telling somebody at it was Bob Hinson, the director of the National Strategic Research Institute, that hey, the Husker football season and the Buckeyes, the Big Ten season will be announced tonight. And that was, I don't know, like 10, 15 minutes ago when he said that. And then, Tom, as we're just getting ready to hit record, you're like, yeah, let's check Twitter. And then you see what?
Steve Berkowitz, who is a reporter for USA Today, tweets Wisconsin Chancellor Rebecca Blank says that until Big Ten knows answers to questions about test and tracing and heart issues with COVID, conference will, quote, keep season postponed. Now, that's fascinating because today, the Columbus Dispatch had an article with the guy who literally did the COVID study who said, yeah, it's not a big concern for athletes. So, what the heck, man? What are you waiting on? Goodness.
I maybe they're just waiting on the mail. They're waiting for the Ohio State information, Big Ten information to get to Wisconsin, and then they can proceed. I am like 5 minutes ago. It's like, oh well, this is happening tonight. Do we even want to record the show, or should we just wait and get it when the big news hits tonight? And then as we're recording, oh, we don't know anything about COVID. We're still researching it. Is it a virus? Is it a disease? We're not sure, and until we know that, we can't play football. I'm going to go with my optimistic side and believe Nebraska, because they've been at the forefront of trying to make this happen all year long. Now, they may just come out and say, we're playing, and the Big Ten will be like, what? We never talked about this. And then Nebraska, because Nebraska, seeing how bad the Big 12 is right now, I was thinking, we could win that puppy.
We're
And
at
they're
least
just
as
going
good as the Sun Belt team. Yeah.
to, they're just going to wake up in the morning, and as I've said before, the Willie Mays Hayes it and go in there and win the Big 12, and then get kicked out by the Big 10, and then of course the Big 12 would just take them back, because why not? So Tom, I don't what do we know at this point? I don't know. I think we do know that all of this presentation took place this weekend, and they said, within 72 hours there will be a vote. Tonight will be about that 72nd hour. We're right in that range, that 3-day window. And so it would make sense that there is a vote coming, or that maybe a vote has already taken place, and then the announcement will come. Are you ready? Like, have you prepared yourself for some finality at all in this? I don't know that I can yet. You're just waiting. The wounds are open. You can't even, Band-Aids don't do anything.
I am going to go back to two separate things that I'm pretty sure I've said on this podcast before. Number one, I will believe the Big Ten is playing a season this fall when I see a ball flying off of a tee inside of Ohio Stadium. Not one moment before will I believe that these clowns will not screw this up somehow. Number two, I find it impossible to believe that all 14 Big Ten teams will play this fall, just based on the fact that the leadership in some of these schools seems so dead set against it for whatever reason you want to ascribe to them. Number two, I find it impossible to believe that only some of the Big Ten teams will play this fall, because I think it's impossible for Minnesota to not play and Wisconsin to play, or Iowa to play and Minnesota and Wisconsin not to play. Like, I can't see that happening. Number three, I really can't believe that even this gong show of a conference leadership will manage to screw this up and not play with everyone else in the universe being able to play right now. So Unfortunately, those are the only three possible outcomes here. One of those three has to definitionally happen. So they all seem kind of impossible right now. So sure, I don't know. I guess we'll all find out together, friends.
I put a poll on Twitter yesterday asking Buckeye fans. It was three options: do you want Michigan to play this year? Do you not? And the third option was I would laugh, have a pretty good time laughing if they didn't play. And so it was like 52% yes, I want them to play, 2% no, and then the rest were like I would seriously laugh if Michigan couldn't play this year. So Buckeye fans do want Michigan to play, but they would also have a laugh at their expense. But I think like I said on the morning scoop today, I I don't I have a hard time envisioning teams sitting out based on everybody else playing. How do you justify sitting out? Because now you can no longer. It makes less sense to stand on this moral superiority of it's just not safe for the players when clearly your doctors are saying it's safe enough, and now you're gonna miss out on you're gonna harm one of your best moneymakers, your football program, and even at places like Illinois or Rutgers where they may not make a ton, they still make more than most programs, and they still bring in their 50 odd million from the Big Ten. And I still think one of the questions we need answered is what kind of cut do you get from TV if you don't play this year? Because if you get no cut, then everybody's going to play, and COVID-19 is suddenly going to be much less serious than previous.
This is amateur athletics you're referencing
Yes,
that they have
correct.
yes, that the decisions
Correct.
being based on money. Okay, good. Because there's name, image, and likeness hearings going on in Congress right now about how involving involving compensation and high levels of money could corrupt this extremely pure and wonderful sport and athletics situation that we all know and love. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that money will not drive the decision here. I mean, if we know anything about college athletics, yes. Yeah, I think there's a bunch of questions that I would assume that they have hammered out behind the scenes. Like, does everyone have to play? Is this an all or nothing thing? If some teams don't want to play, do they get paid money? Do they still get a cut of the TV deal? And honestly, it would not, with as all for one for all as the Big Ten is, if certain schools didn't want to play, it wouldn't shock me if that completely hung this up and well, sorry, Rutgers and Wisconsin don't want to play, and so no, none of us are going to play. It would not completely shock me if that was the result. It wouldn't shock me if they said, well, that's fine. We're all gonna go in together and we're all gonna split the money anyway because this is how we do it and we're all fair and everything's even and it doesn't matter that Rutgers is a huge net negative for the league. They get the same as like nothing would surprise me at this point. So
When you say nothing would surprise you, another way to say that is nothing would nothing would catch you off guard, and no disappointment would be surprising. Because it's when you say nothing would surprise you, it's like no disappointment would surprise you because this is the Big Ten, and they are. I believe the one of their original mottos was the Conference of Disappointments, and then they changed it after like 12 years of bad publicity. So that's where things stand now. We'll know more later, or maybe we won't. So that'll we'll find out together, or we won't. Tom, let's talk about some football stuff. We don't need to talk too much about Wyatt Davis and Shaun Wade because we've got position previews to start. Probably next week because this thing is happening, baby. Football is going to be happening. Maybe.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Wyatt Davis opted out. He, another one of these guys just waiting forever. And Shaun, let's just combine them. Shaun Wade too. And what I said this morning on the morning scoop, it's just like these guys need a goal. They need a direction. And they're not getting any direction from the Big Ten. Ohio State can only provide them with maybe tomorrow we might hear something. And these guys don't like to operate on maybes. They want to operate on definites, and they want definite goals. And the one way to take control of this thing right now is to opt out, to leave, and set your sights on something that is firm and definite, and that is the 2021 NFL Draft. But maybe, Tom, maybe there's a chance for both guys to come back if the Nebraska president was not totally just playing a massive joke on everybody.
Number one, that would be an extremely mean thing. And we know Nebraska people are all nice. If
That's
we know
true.
one thing about Nebraska people, it is that they are all nice. And if we know two things, it is that they are all nice and they want to play football. So I don't think they would play a joke in that direction. Yeah, it does. There is a certain amount of like seizing control and like, look at me, I'm the captain now kind of with opting out. Like, okay, well, you clowns aren't going to figure out whether there's a season or not. That's fine. I'm going to take control of my situation. And now you need to wait on a decision from me. And sure, that's fine. I think my big takeaway from those is neither of those guys had actually slammed the door on coming back. Neither of them has done anything to make those decisions absolutely final. Wyatt Davis talked to Kirk Barton on the Scoop World Order podcast towards the end of last week and said, yep, still, he was directly asked, basically, have you shut the door on this completely? And it was no. The answer was not. The answer was not yes, it is completely done. So that means the answer is no. And Shaun Wade, very similar. I mean, it sounds like the opportunity is there. If the Big Ten does on Tuesday night decide, okay, we're playing and we're playing on October 17th and you can all make it to the college football playoff, it sounds like there's a non-zero chance that one or both of those guys might come back and still be playing. I don't know which one I think is more likely between those two guys, but it's at least an option. But it sure feels like there's just an extremely high level of frustration from all of these guys, from players, from coaches, from media people, from fans. I mean, I think everyone's just kind of exasperated to this point because this has just been catastrophically botched for the last 2 months now. And it has been handled badly and it's also been communicated badly. And I think everyone's just kind of like lost their minds at this point. Like, it's just like, you just want to grab them by the shirt collars and go, listen, you morons, make a decision. And the trends have all been in a positive direction for the last week or so. Everything that we're hearing has been positive for the last week or so. It seems like the word unblowupable. It seems like this is an unscrew-upable situation right now where all of the things that the Big Ten seemed like they needed have all sort of fallen into place. And enough stuff has changed, at least on the surface level, that they can very, credibly say, hey, look, we made this decision in August, but now all of this stuff has changed. So we weren't wrong back then. Just things have changed. So now we were right back then. And now enough has changed that we can make the opposite decision and be right now. And then everyone can kind of have their little face-saving moment. And, everyone else can put the torches and pitchforks away. And, hey, we can watch football just like we're watching football literally everywhere else in the country right now.
And if the Big Ten does this, they were right in August. They were right in September. That's 2 rights. Everybody else only has 1 right and possibly a wrong by not canceling or postponing in August like the Big Ten did. So that's 2 rights, which is more rights than anybody else in America until the Pac-12, decides that maybe they're ready to go in November. So congratulations to the Big Ten for being more right once again than any other conference, assuming that they do return to play and we get to do that. The need for players to have some sort of control, it's like that is basic human. That's what we all, you see that in all kinds of mental health, even where your life is out of control. You find one thing to maybe fixate on and grab onto that you can control, and that's sort of a lifeline. And this is their one thing that they can control. But if if the season gets started back up, maybe we'll see. But Tom, how do you feel like these players, Shaun Wade, Wyatt Davis, completely abandoned their team, abandoned their teammates, their coaches, have abandoned the fans? Why should the coaches? Do you think the coaches would even welcome them back at this point after being completely turned on and turned against? Why should the coaches welcome back these traitors?
Follow-up question for you.
Hmm.
Which one is the delete button? Sorry, I said that out loud. Sorry. I don't. Oh boy,
Good
friends.
stuff.
Never. What's rule number 1 of Twitter.com? Never tweet. Never
there
tweet.
You go.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you have to just sort of understand that both of these players were people who could have left for the NFL. If they were really not interested in helping Ohio State win a national championship, the easy way to not help Ohio State win a national championship and go chase money was to leave after last season. Clearly, they were interested in going to help Ohio State chase a national championship and perhaps improve their draft stock. That's why you come back for another year. So it would be real hard for me to get real upset with those guys for doing that. And then in the wake of a once a century global pandemic and a once a century conference wide clown show, for them to not get a little bit frustrated and go, you know what, like, enough with these morons. Because here's the thing: you can go as soon, you're not getting an NFL check as soon as you turn pro. If you are to the point where you have decided you are not coming back yet, and it is, to be clear, neither of these guys is seemingly at that spot yet. But when they get to the point where it's like, all right, I'm not coming back yet, you can go start signing endorsement deals. And, you know, if you personally were in a spot where you can either be sitting there waiting for the 15 morons and in charge of these individual schools and the conference to reach a decision, or you could go get $250,000 worth of endorsement deals in the next 2 weeks. Like, I don't think that's a super clear-cut decision that you would absolutely decide, I'm going to wait on these morons to make a decision, that they may or may not make a decision. And that why am I wasting my life waiting for these idiots to do something that they very clearly could have done weeks ago if they really wanted to? So I would have a very difficult time getting too worked up over someone deciding like they were tired of waiting for the clowns to all pile out of the car and just go get the money that you are, have basically put on hold. So, and again, it seems like these guys, Wyatt Davis and Shaun Wade, are both kind of in that sort of like in between limbo right now, where they haven't completely shut the door on it, but they've at least walked out of the house. So they always could walk back in, and, if they do, then great. Then they get to play another season, and that would be great. And I would love to cover both of those guys again this year, and see how much they've improved. And man, the chance to see that Ohio State offensive line that I think could be the best Ohio State offensive line in program history, I would really love to see that, because I just love watching line play. So that was something I was really looking forward to this year. But I mean, if that doesn't happen, I really can't fault either of those guys at all. I think you can. There are plenty of people to blame here, and they are not anywhere near the top of that list.
I do wonder how much the Rutgers situation has played into this, where they're like, you mean I might not get to play against Rutgers? Like, why even have a season then? I'm just gonna go to the NFL. If I can't play against Rutgers and have that moment against a Big Ten legendary program, then I'll just go get a car dealership deal and sell some cars, make some money, and then work out for the draft. Because if I can't play against Rutgers, there's no point in playing for Ohio State.
Right. I mean, if I can't beat Rutgers and get the golden pork roll necklace charm that every Ohio State player gets for beating Rutgers, in the northern New Jersey they call that the Taylor ham necklace. That's a different conversation. Alex Gleitman right now somewhere is all perked up. Oh, New Jersey talk.
With his tracksuit.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. No, it's. I think there are people who are upset about this, and I think it is extraordinarily misguided. And the people who were on Twitter.com yesterday putting players on blast for leaving early, like, I compared it to the signing the players only card at the Earl Bruce Memorial. Like, yep, okay, and this is the moment you should stop. Not that you should have been paying attention to this person before, but if you were, this is the moment you should stop paying attention to this person forever and ever and ever.
and ever. Do we want to do questions? Do we have some questions to get
Yeah,
to?
we have some listener questions, and if you guys who are watching us live have additional questions, you can just throw them in the Q&A function on Zoom, and we will answer them right there. Diego de la Vega. Sooner or later, the Starks are always right. Sir Yacht, probably.
Yeah, I just assume, like, and I think I had this in the group text where anytime something comes out, he's just going to respond with, I can confirm. That way he can just stay right the entire time. Even though, Tom, I don't think he's actually been right the entire time.
Well, considering he's reported about 17 directly conflicting things and none of them have actually come to pass, yeah. Here's my question. Is Sir Yacht Dan Patrick's burner account? Because it seems like the hit rate is pretty similar there. Next one from Buckeye Klein. Do you anticipate Buckeye Scoop having any social distancing watch parties or off-campus tailgates?
Well, what we could do, I don't know the answer to that. We could just give people Kirk Barton's address and they could just show up. I know I, once everything is settled down, I'm sure we will do stuff. I don't know that you and I will do stuff because we'll be, working, but I have to imagine as much as a community that we're trying to build and have built, especially on the Ask the Insiders board, there's going to be stuff like that coming. It's just a matter of getting it set up. And first, we need to know if there are games. Second, when are the games? And then third, how do we do all this? So, yeah.
Well, and also, can people tailgate at the games? Can fans go to the games? I mean, these are all questions that are getting answered in different ways in different places. So even places where they're letting fans in, they're not letting people tailgate. So, again, like Tony said, I think there has been a general trend that we are going to try and do something in some form whenever we can. Mark Givler went down to Ironton last week and just basically said, I'm eating dinner at this restaurant at this time. Come and join me if you want. So, I think there will be probably something, whatever we can do safely and following the rules, we will do that. So
I'd say we should just go grab the front porch at the outer end one day and just keep it all day and then close it down. I don't know what time bars close anymore. I don't know if it's 11 or 2, just depending on the area. But hey, I'd be up for that. I'm actually always up for that at the outer end.
Josh Downey says that reporter is tweeting the Wisconsin president's remarks as she makes into a Senate hearing, not likely the place she'll announce the Big Ten's plans. I mean, I guess to me, those comments were pretty explicitly, that's pretty directly, until they know the answers to questions about testing, tracing, and hard issues of COVID, conference will keep season postponed. Now, I think this is a paraphrase on Twitter of a comment to the Senate, and who knows what she's saying. Without having seen the clip, I can't directly say you should definitely get back out on the ledge and be prepared to jump. Please don't do that. But I think there's plenty of ways to say that they're working through some, we're just working through some details on some things like that. That's the way to say that if you really are hours away from making a decision. So that gives me a little bit of pause. But again, the communication from the Big Ten, what's a grade lower than F-?
Yeah, and her words are very much a decision has not been made. And of course, yes, we all expect, as sad as it is to say, we all expect our leaders and presidents of, be it whatever corporation or entity or university or country, we do expect some lying. And so, or we're not lying, just you're not going to get the whole truth just yet. And I don't know why she phrased it in that way, other than maybe that's actually the truth, which is pretty dang disappointing and kind of scary.
Yeah, I keep getting optimistic that they really have to be kind of on the track that it seems like they are. And I mean, of the many, many reasons I've been optimistic this week is the people who have been telling you that this is just a physical impossibility for this league to play. And I am searching some of them right now just to see if any of them have changed their tune recently while we've been recording. But the people who have been rushing to tell you that one of them just said a hot mic is truly the perfect end to this saga. So, that's the last tweet from this person. the people who have been rushing to tell you that this is a physical impossibility because the league is telling them to say these words and shoving their hand up there and making the mouth move, if the league is not shoving their hand up there and making their mouth move and say, this is not possible, then that probably means that the league does not think this is not possible. So the trends on everything that we as a staff and our insiders have been hearing has been positive. The trends of all the people who are sort of the Big Ten mouthpieces has been positive. So in general, I think there's a lot of positive movement here. I would be, again, I mean, as I said earlier, literally everything would surprise me at this point. So I don't know, but you know, it seems like they have come so far that this is an almost unscrewable situation. But you know, please do not take that as a challenge, Big Ten.
and there are people right now who like to crush hopes and dreams. And if they had this opportunity and the Big Ten was giving them something, they would definitely go forward with that and use that to crush people. And the fact that the Big Ten isn't saying we're not anywhere near, anything, or they're not giving them that, I think is a good sign. But again, we'll see. Tonight, Tom, I'm almost confident.
One of the other Big Ten mouthpieces says Nebraska chirpin' is the last quote tweet of the Nebraska hot mic thing, and nothing on the Wisconsin president. So take that for whatever it's worth. Last question from Diego De La Vega. Seems like Wade and Davis would have to opt back in. Both felt like they needed more tape, and I'm sure the Steelers GM is not isolated in those feelings. Steelers GM basically said, if it's close, they're taking the guy who played this year over the guy who didn't, even if it was, even if it wasn't like they opted out, that they, if the guy just didn't play and they don't have tape this year, they're going to take the guy who has tape this year over that, the guy who doesn't. So what reason do you think they could have to stay out if today's announcement happens?
For me, and I go back to this quite often, Shaun Wade has been out for a while. He's been home. And the longer these guys are thinking about, have nothing else to think about other than the money, then it gets harder and harder to go back away from that. And it's no different than when you lose a bowl game and the guy's got a decision to make. He's like, oh, man, I don't want to go out like this. I don't want to go out a loser in this game. 2 weeks later, that game means nothing to him anymore. And he's just thinking about, I can set up my family. I can set up myself. I can get a bigger television. I can get a nicer car. And it's really hard to compete with that when your entire life has been thinking about the NFL. Your entire life has not been thinking about my redshirt junior season, so that's where things get clouded, because when you're just thinking maybe when is the Big Ten, when is the Big Ten, when is the Big Ten, the one thing that is definite is the 2021 NFL draft. And that's what you start thinking about. And I think it's, once you pull your finger off that checker, it's harder. I think it's harder. It's going to be hard to opt back in for either of them. And even though they both have said that, there's a possibility, Wyatt Davis said he'd have to talk to his family about it. And Shaun Wade seemed open to it, but I would still be surprised, just because, like, once they make that decision, they are now invested in that. And now their mindset is there, and everything about the decision has been made. All of that weight is off their shoulder now. And now, do you want to put that weight back on? Do you want to change your mindset from what it was? Like, sure, they might. I guess I would be surprised if either of them does it, simply because I think it's just hard to put that toothpaste back in the tube.
Yeah, it's what I mean. This is something we're seeing on the conference level as well. It's hard once you make a decision to go 180 degrees back on that decision, and there are certainly arguments to be made to do it. And Diego made some of them right there. And I think that you have, these are guys, like I said earlier, who their initial inclination was to play another year. So they've already gone back on their initial decision now, because, but think about how much that took. That was not decisions that were made on August 12th, right after they made this decision. Those were decisions that they waited another month and waited through times when the conference was saying, it's done, it's not happening, there's no fall season. and they stuck it out through that. And so, this is the Big Ten has worn them down and ground them down to the point that, okay, finally, basically, you throw your hands up in the air and say, okay, fine, I'm not going to do it. And then now, if they come back 2 days later, it's like, oh, no, sorry. So, I'm sorry. Were you guys waiting on an answer? I'm so sorry. But if I had only known, yes. So yeah, it would not shock me if either one or maybe both opted back in, but I definitely do not think that's a total given right now. But at this point, we may find out in just a matter of hours.
Or coaches might be like, sorry, the depth charts are now set in ink, and we do not have room for you. So, Tom, I think that'll do it. The questions are done.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to keep the show relatively short because we're going to probably, maybe, perhaps, hopefully, have much more to talk about tonight when there may or may not be answers. And if we are talking to you tonight, that I guess that means there were answers. Is that correct? That's the only reason we're going to do another show tonight, right?
Yes, I don't want another limbo show. I don't want another bad news show. So yeah, I'm doing a morning scoop show tonight, one way or the other. So I will do at least one podcast tonight. If I'm doing 2 podcasts tonight, I darn well better have some good news to talk about. I am really ready to be in a good mood when we have one of these shows. I cannot wait. I'm however excited you are to have football to talk about. As someone who has to talk about football every morning on a daily podcast, and as Tony is someone who writes about football every day and talks about football quite a bit on these podcasts. However excited you are to have football, we are extremely, extremely excited to have actual football to talk and write about.
Maybe. Hopefully. All right. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for watching. Those of you who joined us, thank you all for listening. Make sure to continue to check out BuckeyeScoop.com. Now is a great time to subscribe if you have not yet done that. Once this announcement gets made that, hey, man, we're back in business, football is happening, there's going to be a bunch of news coming. Camp will be opening. Maybe. Again, all of this is maybes and hopefullys, but you'll want to know what's going on with camp. We'll get you covered there. Tons of insight from the insiders. The recruiting continues unabated. And there's just a bunch of stuff at the site and a bunch of podcasts. Tom mentioned the Morning Scoop. If you there's something for everybody, just check out BuckeyeScoop.com. You'll see that right away. And again, thank you all for listening, and we will talk to you all later.